Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to the June edition of Molten Music Monthly. This month's monthly is very kindly sponsored by our friends over at Flatsix Modular. Flatsix build these extraordinary 1U modules. Like this one. This is the Art of Darkness, probably one of my favourite modules of all time. It's simple, it's beautiful, and it gives you instant melodic satisfaction. It just drops in there, you give it a couple of taps and it generates. And you have something going and you're already off making music and fiddling with things and patching and repatching and modulating. It's awesome. It's all built on this thing called the Nocturne Alchemy platform. There are a couple of different things that Flatsix do. They do the 7th Summoner, which is a sequencer. So you write a sequence in a 101 style, store it, play it, recall it, throw it about the place. The Art of Darkness, as I mentioned, you just hit notes and the notes appear like a shift register, like adding notes to a continually evolving arpeggiation. The other one is the Sleight of Hand, which is essentially just a keyboard. Very simple. There's one octave keyboard here and you can send out notes into other bits and pieces. Fabulous. They're constantly updating them, improving them, adding little features into what is a very basic feature set. But it's so damn usable that I just absolutely love them. They're a great thing to have. Thank you for the sponsorship this month. And if you'd like to occupy this space and tell us about your stuff, then just give us a shout. Otherwise, before we overheat in the shed or I just get overwhelmed by the mess, which doesn't seem possible. I don't think there's an actual threshold to which I would get overwhelmed by mess. I think mess and me co-occupy the same space as very good old friends. What? Anyway, on with the show. First up, I thought I would talk very briefly about PMT and the demise of what is essentially the last full-bodied music shop in Norwich. PMT had about 11 stores over the country and it all went poof. Very, very sadly. It's an indicator of how music shops are faring, I think, in this day and age. In the age of the internet, of course, we've struggled on for 30 years in the age of the internet. But I think it's come to a point now that it's very difficult to maintain a profitable bricks and mortar music store when everything is so available online. But in the losing of these stores, we lose something very, very important. We lose an essence of what discovering music and technology is all about. I imagine that every musician can talk about how they went to a particular music shop and they picked up their first guitar, or they played their first synth, or they got pissed off by some sales guy who was being rude to them. You know, we all have our music shop stories, and those things will be lost. It's not the same to buy something off the internet. It's not the same just to watch well-meaning YouTube videos like by people like myself telling you about great stuff and other bits and pieces. Those things are fine and absolutely have their place, and going forward are pretty much going to be all there is. But such a huge amount is lost when we lose the places that you can go during your lunch hour, on that day off you happen to have, on a Saturday maybe when it's busy, just popping in there, looking around, moseying about, fiddling about, buying yourself a new cable, you know, maybe a couple of plectrums, and then coming back a month later and dropping £1,000 quid on a synthesizer or a guitar or an amp or something. You know, these are vital places that show us what's possible, that what's out there in a reality. You know, I was absolutely sure that I wanted a Jaguar guitar, absolutely certain of it. Went to the shop, PMT's in Norwich, played it and thought, nah, this really isn't for me. Ended up buying a Telecaster. And I would not have done that. I would not have chosen a Telecaster because I had one in the past that I kind of fell out of love with. But the one that I got, because the neck had changed and other things were different, and it just suited me down to the ground. It's very hard to do that on the internet. Very, very hard. Now, guitars, I think, are more likely to stay around simply because they are so physical, and you tend to go into a shop to buy that particular one that's hanging right there. you don't tend quite so much. I mean, people do, obviously. You don't tend to try a guitar and then get one mail ordered to you quite so much as you do with synthesizers. Because synthesizers are going to be the same. There's not going to be anything in that particular one that you tried that's going to be different to any of the others that you get delivered to you. And in fact, you wouldn't be able to take the demonstration one away in the first place. So it's slightly different with synths. But we end up in this kind of culture where we are getting stuff delivered to us all the time. We try it, we like it, we don't like it, we send it back. And we have this sort of loop going on of wasting so much carbon and energy in that interaction, where we're trying things, send it back. Whereas what we need is a space where you can go and try a few things. Talk to someone who knows a little bit about them. Hear a demonstration. Consider it. Haggle a little bit, maybe get some cables thrown in, other bits and pieces you might need, things you hadn't thought of, or having the option to absolutely walk away and go, nah. Those things are so much more difficult when you've only got the internet to look at. Thank you, Mr. Cockrell. I can tell that he agrees. So what do we make of that? I don't know. There's a lot of talk, some good talk going on in the industry about how we can do it differently, how we can move forward. If we can't afford to run a shop because there just isn't the margin, or you can't compete against online sales, then maybe there has to be another way. And how do we find that other way? Do we need there to be another way? Do we actually care enough about these things? Have we been so annoyed by music shops that we're just glad that they're going? These are all good, interesting questions and worth talking about. Now, I personally have something approaching somewhere near a solution, which I will tell you about at the end of this Molten Monthly. And let's just get on and talk about the gear. Just before we start talking about the gear, there's this other thing that cropped up quite unexpectedly. I didn't know anything about it, and this was SOS for Artists. I mean, I write for Sound on Sound. I had no clue that this was about to happen, so it's quite exciting. The idea is that Sound on Sound magazine have pulled together all of the aspects that are involved in modern music production and said, here you go. For a small subscription fee, you can have it all. Have the lot, from tools that help you create, through to the recording, through to the mastering, through to the distribution, to the promotion and getting it out there. All of that brought together in a single package. It's a really interesting idea. And something like Sound on Sound is a perfect place to do it, because they're not wedded to particularly one brand or another. I mean, you might have a subscription to your DAW or to a plug-in manufacturer or something like that, and they are feeding you stuff every month, which is great, but it'll always be about their own products. Whereas with Sound on Sound, they can access all sorts of different brands and different products and bring all those things together in a coherent way. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting, and it's a really good idea, I think. There are some things, like, for instance, some of the plugins you get, get some good pro plugins. As far as DAWs go, you get Ableton Live Lite or a version of Cubasis, I believe it is, and so some of it feels a little bit like, oh right, these are the software plugins and bits and freebies that you get when you buy any old audio interface or MIDI controller. Maybe, but there's more in there. And Sound on Sound claim and suggest that they will expand it and the content will get greater over time. There's a whole massive library of samples and other bits and pieces that you also get access to. And I guess you would probably assume that most people already have a DAW, so maybe that's just in order to round the package out entirely. But there's tons of plugins, virtual instruments, samples. But then the more interesting thing perhaps is that it takes you into the Lander, is that how you pronounce it? Mastering suite of things. You get stem separation. You get unlimited uploads and mastering once it's done through AI, I imagine, or some such, so you can take your tunes and you can get them properly prepared for distribution. And then of course there's distribution, and apparently there's over 150 different streaming services that it will farm it out to. And that is also a thing which makes me go, I wish perhaps that there was a more physical side to that. I mean, streaming services are a reality, of course, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever it is a fact of life that's kind of where you need to be on if you are trying to produce and get your music out there. But I would really like Sound on Sound to be championing I'd like them to be supporting the ideas of things like Bandcamp, places which are a little bit more personal, a little bit more individual, so you're not just lost in the slew of streaming services, and perhaps also offer cassette duplication, CD duplication, vinyl pressing, things like that too. I think would be great to see, and perhaps we'll see those things down the line. But overall, it's under a tenner for a month. All the plugins, all the stuff, all the mastering, all the advice. There's a YouTube connection, there's promotional opportunities, there's a lot of stuff that they've packed into this. They've given it a good load of thought, and I think for anyone looking to go through the entire process from songwriting, creation, mastering, distribution, that this is a really good place to go and have a look and see whether that fits what you're doing. That is SOS for Artists. Right, sorry, I'm back. I had to go and do a whole load of things like walk the dog, sort a load of stuff out, get kids organised. Serenity returns to the shed. I'm just a bit more frazzled now than I was, but hey, let's struggle into the rest of this month's monthly. Now, coming up, we have Something FME by GForce Instruments. Now, I thought GForce Instruments were completely wedded to the idea of keeping it real with the analog, the virtual analog. But no, apparently, they've been persuaded into doing weird stuff with FM as well. I mean, you know, it's like being turned to the dark side. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Halogen FM. This, again, as we so often hear, whenever someone comes up with another FM synth of some kind, it's always, this time it's easy. This time it's not going to be any trouble at all. There's going to be like no controls that will all do it for you. All you've got to do is sort of blink at it and it will generate another FM tone with masterful gloriousness, clangy glassiness, just that little bit of fizz, but it'll be extraordinarily melodic and awesome, and we'll all feel like we're magic or something. That's the kind of distortion field that revolves around FM synthesis, I find, most of the time, and this is what we have in Halogen. Now it looks amazing. It looks fantastic. You seem to have these two competing spinning oscillators, an operator, a carrier, that kind of thing in FM parlance, that are interacting with each other and modulating each other. But apparently, if you press the spark button, it'll generate a whole new patch for you that will just sound brilliant. So there you go. There's the whole not messing around with 1,000 parameters in order to try to craft something. No, you just press a button and it goes whiz, 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 and you have another FM tone. Fantastic. I've never really held with this idea that FM is complicated. There's just a lot of things you can do. I mean, it was the first synthesizer I ever had, so it always seemed normal to me that you would step through like 38 different parameters and set envelopes on things and changes and pitch changes and all that kind of thing. It just seems to be what you're supposed to do. But apparently most of the world can't cope with that, so we have this infinite AI generative Halogen FM synthesizer which just goes poof, and there you have another FM tone. However, you can get underneath the hood. You can get in there and do all the messing about if you so wish, but if you don't, you can just enjoy tone after tone of FM loveliness without having to worry about it. So that's nice. This month's monthly is actually extremely software heavy, except for one or two exceptions and a whole bundle of Eurorack that I'm going to throw together somewhere in the middle just to take you by surprise. But first off, Sonicware have another LIVEN. I mean, there must be no end to this big pile of hardware shells that they have that they're trying to fill with something new to offer us. This time around, it's acoustic instruments and granular in something called Evoke. Good name. Good name. Really like that name. Combining that with sort of acoustic-y instruments and stuff which is strangely pulled apart. It's probably a winning sound engine, I think. Now, there's a lot of love out there for the LIVEN boxes. Not from me, necessarily. I have reviewed a couple and they are very, very capable. They're also very, very plastic, very, very clacky, and not very intuitive. Particularly, you have to work quite hard to work out what the heck is going on with this one. But it does have a lot of power in terms of its sequencing and per step locking parameter stuff. So it's got a lot of movement, a lot of animation, a lot of excitement that can go on within it, as well as each one having these quite extraordinary sound engines. I think it's about time that they released like an Uber LIVEN that you can swap all the different firmwares into that can just do the lot, rather than having this expanding, you need yet another table to stick another one of these little LIVEN things on. But then, of course, on the other side, that's what we like. We like little boxes that do stuff. It's just remarkable that this little box, which has been the same now for years, is still doing new and interesting things. So there you go. So that's the Evoke. So yeah, software then. Yes, Cherry Audio have done a thing for what would have been the 100th birthday of Alan R. Perman, ARP. Or ARP, as we, I suppose, know them. And this is a take on the Odyssey called the ODC. ODC, get it? It's quite clever, really, I suppose. So this takes our friend the ARP Odyssey and pulls it, massages it, tweaks it, squishes it around just to pull out a little bit more. So it's pulling out polyphony. They're adding in another oscillator, I think, an LFO, shed load of modulation options. In fact, there's probably a lot more in there, but the demo video is cutting so fast I don't have any time to read what the features are. But hopefully you can probably find out if you visit the website. I was on Sonic State the other week, last week possibly, and we spoke about this one, the Universal Audio Anthem. And it was generally considered with a bit of a shrug, like, do we really need another sort of dual oscillator analog modelled software synth? Don't we have enough of those by now? I was agog. I was absolutely shocked at the very idea that anyone could possibly say that there are too many synthesizers. I mean, that's a slippery slope, that is. That's a slope down to saying, like, we've had enough, or we've got enough. We don't need any more, thanks very much. Then where would we be? I mean, honestly, where would we be? The devastation to everybody's lives, the children that would be crying, the dogs that wouldn't get fed. It would be a tragedy. It would be really bad. So I approach this in as much as, yeah, sure, it's something that we've seen before. However, there are many, many things, many aspects, many angles that inspire and spark our creativity. It may be a spark button that you press that generates another FM tone. It may be that. It may be the gorgeousness of a rendered knob within a knob that's supplying some kind of signal to some other part of something which has been modulated and moved. It may be the interface that inspires you to do something. It may be the sound. I mean, it could be the sound, or it could be some other feature within that. There's no telling really what it is that gets our juices flowing. It's very hard to pin down. And so different things do different things to different people. And I found that the Anthem, for me, is gorgeous to look at. The sound is phenomenal, and it absolutely works in a very, very familiar way. Now, I may have something that already does this kind of thing, but if I was in the market for a new take on an analog sounding thing, I'd certainly give this a look, I think. Very good, beefy, vintagey sound. Now, the other factor that was also questioned on Sonic State was the fact that it's paraphonic. So in software, what normally happens is you take a boring old mono synth and you spend weeks and weeks trying to emulate it and stick it into software, and then you ruin it by duplicating all the voices so you have a massive 16 voice polyphonic synthesizer, which sounds absolutely like every other massive 16 voice polyphonic software synthesizer. UAD decided not to do that. Instead, they've gone for monophonic, duophonic, sort of unison duophonic, and paraphonic, which means you have up to 6 voices, I think, running through the one filter. Now, you could say that's a problem. However, this is something that synthesizers have done in the past through technological limitations, cost limitations, that kind of thing. And it actually has its own vibe. It has its own character, because you're not getting a refiring of that filter envelope every time you press a note. You're only getting that refiring when you've taken your fingers off and are going back. So as you add notes, you don't get it on every single voice. And that's odd and interesting, and I think that's a pretty courageous move, or just an interesting design choice, and to not go all the way to as many notes as you like. Polyphony, go for it differently, and that gives you a different interesting angle to do things. So it doesn't sound like any other analog polysynth, it will sound oddly different. Yeah, and that's pretty cool. Otherwise, I really like the layout. I think the layout is beautiful. I think the knobs are beautiful. The way the modulation works within knobs, I think that's beautiful. I think they've done a really good job on the interface where things are, the effects, bits and pieces, and then top it all off with the fact that it's restricted to periphony, paraphony, to paraphonic articulation. To give it its full thing, I think it's 6-voice polyphony with paraphonic articulation through the filter. There we go. That would be the official way to talk about it, I think. And then we have another Prophet 5 emulation. Should we even have another Prophet 5 emulation? Apparently so, yes. This one is from Acustica Audio, called the Expanse 5, because of the 5 voices, Prophet 5. It looks very Prophet-y 5y, which is nice. I like an emulation to look like the thing it's supposed to be homage in. And what they've done is they've used analog modeling on the circuits, but also convolution in order to, I think, define the spaces within which the circuits operate. And then they've oversampled the heck out of it. So the idea is that you just make it as high fidelity as possible. So you're sampling and moduling the absolute breadth of every single component down to its last little carbon atoms. And hopefully that should bring us a very interesting, movable, organic, authentic sounding synthesizer. Well, let's hope so. They've added a few bits. Of course, because how could you not? They've doubled the polyphony. Of course. I mean, there was a 10 voice, wasn't there? The Prophet 10. So that ain't no thing necessarily. That's nice there, but they've added some effects and other bits and pieces, which are very cool. It's got a good bit of stereo widening, some vintage warmth added in there. And they've also added a sub-oscillator, which is interesting. The what looks like an AI-generated trailer is the least helpful thing in the whole world. Is it the sounds from this that we're hearing? Who can tell? What does it look like? Nobody knows. I'm looking forward to getting past this, the temptation to use AI to write your little trailer in some kind of cinematic form. I mean, it's kind of fun. It was fun a year or so ago. And it's extraordinary, no doubt, but it's very, very unhelpful in trying to judge a product. Right, so what the heck is this then? What's it? The Tetrad synthesizer. I was put onto this by Richard Devine. He posted something about it, and I went, oh, all right, I've seen that before. Now, okay, get this. It takes acoustic instruments and then granulizes them. Sounds a lot like what LIVEN were doing, Sonicware were doing with the LIVEN Evoke. I don't know where I am today. Anyway, Tetrad. Somebody slap me. Tetrad synthesizer. It's something to do with physical modeling, something to do with granular. It's taking 4 oscillators, mixing those about, amplitude modulation, and then it flings them at these plates. It's got these strange array of plates in the middle, which always seem to remain the same. They look very much like you could stick a mouse in there and move them about, but you can't, at least as far as I can tell. And what these plates do is also a good question. I don't know whether the sound is being thrown at them and then contact mics are taking that sound away, or is the mic actually a speaker and that's generating sound which is then going through the plate into the general space which you're then absorbing. Not entirely sure. It says it's a synthesizer like nothing else, and I would tend to agree. What seemed to come out of it when playing with the demo, so you can download a demo, definitely worth doing that, is like the movement and the undulation and modulation of it, the way it sort of phases with itself through these 4 plates and these 4 oscillators, these sound sources, physically modelled through this stuff and then stretched and pulled apart through the granular engine, I suppose you would call it. Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely stuff I hadn't really heard before. I didn't have any clue as to what I was doing with it though. We'll come back to some more software later, but here's a snatch of Eurorack for you, starting with the Teia Synthesizers RipWave. This caught my eye simply because it's a very nicely compact voltage controlled oscillator. It has all the usual simple waveforms that we've come to expect from oscillators, but it also has a nice transform knob, which you know is going to start doing interesting things. Is it a kind of a folding, shifting, pulse width modulating kind of thing? Yeah, sort of all of those. So you get your triangle and it's kind of then morphed into something else, and your squares morphed into something, your sawtooth morphed into something else, and it's CV controllable, so you can stick something in there and get it to play and move and manipulate. And that's a really nice feature of an oscillator. It has an octave switch, which I really like, and individual outputs on all the waves, including their transformed waveform. And so it's a nice thing that could sit in a nice small case. It's like the Pony VCO is an oscillator I really like because of its compact nature, because you don't need a whole lot. You don't necessarily need a big module when it comes to oscillators, because they're really doing something very simple. And once you've set the tuning, you don't necessarily touch it that much. Unless, of course, it has a transformative nature like this one does. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but hey, I thought it was nice. ALM/busy circuits, whatever they're called, have this range called PIP. PIP. Not sure what it stands for. Might not mean anything. It might just mean small. Don't know. PIP-like. Who knows? But there's two that they've just released. The LFO, which is also a VCO, which is odd because you often get VCOs which are also LFOs. You very rarely get an LFO which is also a VCO. So that's rather smart. And the other one's a filter, which is a simple 2-pole low pass filter, but it does have a trigger input, so you can ping it for self-oscillation and other such exploratory things. Both of these very small, very compact, and it looks like the useful sort of thing that you can start building a mini system out of. You know, the LFO, VCO, the filter, which also has a VCA built in. So you've already got almost an entire synth voice in these small little modules. Is that what we want? There's a discussion, I think, going on at the moment about the number of modules that seem to be packing in features, which is very convenient, because I think there's an element in Eurorack and Modular where people are actually wanting more convenience, because it can take an age just to patch together a single voice. And while if you're into Modular, that's what you want, you absolutely want that, there's a lot of people, I think, I'm feeling, who are interested in Modular. They find it fascinating, they think that's a really interesting way of doing things, but I just don't really want to do the whole thing every time I turn the thing on. And so modules with more than one feature, with other things built in, VCAs, envelopes, bits and pieces, I think is something we're going to see continue, simply because there's a demand for that sort of module that's going to save you a bit of space for something that you're not necessarily interested in modularizing. You know, you don't necessarily want to spend all your time fiddling with the VCA and the potential of that. You just want it to do the VCA job. And so we don't necessarily need expansive individual modules to do that. Perhaps the VCA and envelope, for instance, I think is almost a no-brainer to have those two things together. To have the option of an envelope with a VCA output, you know, and input, obviously, that you can just have running that section of a synth voice, because we are more often than not going to do that. And then you can use other VCAs and other envelopes for other duties. But having a couple of simple things just to do that sort of job. See, I'm coming up with new module ideas just on the fly. From Steady State Fate, we have the Tape Op, which is a saturation distortion tape wobbly wibbly module. That looks quite cool. Whacking great big saturation knob. It's not actually tape saturation, it is analog. It's using all sorts of other components in order to emulate that sort of sound. It's got tape bias to give it a bit of sort of wear and tear and wobble. It's got a 3-band strange EQ, which does other things, and then a whacking great limiter at the end just to crush it all together. I mean, it sounded like quite a lot of fun, I have to say. I like a bit of distortion from time to time. And then from Koma Elektronik, we have the Monoplex sequencer. Now there's bugger all information on the website. Maybe we're supposed to already all know about it. I don't know, but it's got a big pre-order button. It's like a terrible picture, like some hand-drawn piece of something done in Windows Paint image of it, and then a pre-order button like €500 or something. You go, really? You're going to pull people in with that? Do you think you could just smarten it up a little bit? Maybe give us a video of a prototype doing a thing? But digging around, I did find a quick snippet from Superboost. So they were at Superboost showing this, but I don't think anybody noticed. However, 10 years ago, they were at Superbooth showing the complex sequencer, which is what this is based upon, which was a huge desktop thing that had 4 of these what looked like 16-channel sequencers, all on faders, all on sliders, running all together. And it's sort of a huge analog sequencing experience of 4 channels worth of it all at once. This has pulled a single channel out, stuck it in Eurorack, and said, there you go, give that a go. You'll have to intuit your way in, because we're not going to tell you what it does. Right, here's some quick fire Eurorack, because there's been a whole bunch that I've been ignoring for a little while, so I'm just going to throw a dozen maybe at you. Links will be down in the description, but these are some interesting ones. If you go through Modular Grid, go through the new modules, these are the sort of things that I thought were interesting. First of all, DivKid has released a new version of his Mutes. It has a 1U version as well, which is great. Mutes is great. It's 4 channels. You turn things on, you turn things off. Very, very useful. I use it for percussion all the time. Great. There's a new version with some slight improvements to something or other. I don't know. 1U version, very useful to have. Next up, Ear Modular with the Windstring and Paperbird. I don't know. I mean, it sounded interesting. There's also weird noises going on. Somehow, something about sound swaying around between 10 different outputs. What the heck are you going to put that into? I have no idea, but fabulously artistic and creative and interesting video doing all sorts of weirdness, which is what we like, infused with logic and shift registers. Ooh, more. From Dawned Instruments, we got Acadie, I think. This is a weird looking thing. It's given off very strong omni-chord vibes, I think, with that thing down the side, but it's a chord generator, sort of performance instrument arpeggiator, but it also actually has a bitimbral polyphonic synthesizer built in. What's it all about? I don't know, but it looks amazing. New Systems Instruments have a discrete map, which I don't fully understand. DivKid's done a nice big video on this, so that's probably what you should go and look. But it looks like a 16-step sequencer, but I think it's an 8-step sequencer, because the top half does steps, and the bottom half does timing and other bits and pieces. I don't know. I think it's exploring the way that you get voltage by defining some kind of map and then accessing that discretely. But apparently it can be a sequencer, can also be a quantizer, can also be an LFO, a switch, and when you push it into audio rate it becomes a VCO. So again, these are all mystical, magical things. What on earth is happening out there in Modular World? We are just coming up with the most bizarre and strange things. It's pretty exciting. Less exciting in features, but more exciting in look is aircraft designs. These look very different, very, very pro audio, which I think is definitely their vibe. And in here, you've got things like a VCA compressor, you've got some EQ, a mid-side saturator, and other kind of pro audio rack mount 500 series types of stuff in Eurorack form. Very interesting to see what's coming out from there, and also whether you can find the sort of person who would use that sort of thing. From our friends at AMSynths, we have a triple resonator. This is a triple band pass resonator built on 3 Vactral filters and put into an ARP 2500 form. Free Modular have a quantizer. It's pretty cute. It's in a circle. I like the idea of that. A circular 2-channel quantizer. You can put in your scale on the circle, and then both channels can either operate independently or chain to each other in order to follow the same scale. You can transpose them individually and do other bits and pieces with them. Good, simple, solid, cute, adorable even, you could say. Good looking thing. The Cat-Off 100FX is... It's a bit weird. It's an effects processor, right, that has 100 presets. 100 presets, but no controls. It's go, here's 100 things. Just turn those on and stop messing with it. Stop it. Stop messing with it. Take your hands off. Wet and dry, all right, we'll give you wet and dry. There you go, wet and dry. Otherwise, just find the preset, because that's really all you want. All that tweaking you do is nonsense. You don't really know what you're doing. We've put in 100 bloody brilliant presets, all sorts of things. It's exactly what you want. Stop messing with it. Get on with making music. And finally in this bunch, Behringer has released Skies, which is a Clouds clone. I can't believe they haven't done this. Why didn't they do this first? You would have absolutely assumed that Behringer would have copied the Clouds first. You know, that's probably the most successful module in the world, alongside Make Noise Maths maybe. And I can't believe they haven't done it till now. Anyway, they have. Woo! Along with lots of other people who are doing clones and immutable stuff. Is it exciting? It's nice that the mutable technology, the mutable ideas are still out there being used, and Behringer is going to ensure that those ideas are going to live on in a very cheap and cheerful module. That's great. There are plenty of other options out there, but for me, I never got on with the original. Never could fathom it, never could work it out, couldn't understand what the interest was. It was a nice reverb ultimately, but that's all I could ever do with it. So I could not be less interested in the Behringer Skies. Right, back to other things. Cakewalk Sonar is back again. Now, Cakewalk went out of business a decade ago. It was bought by BandLab, who then released it for free. And it was like, wow, there's a whole free door out there. That's very exciting. And then it wasn't free, and then it was, and then it became something else, and it became Cakewalk by BandLab, or then it became Cakewalk Next or something. Anyway, it just got confusing. I think most people went, I'm just going to use something else. So they've brought it back. They've given it a little bit of a shake up and down. They've adjusted the front end. I mean, it's still ugly because it's just part of its makeup is to just look just slightly last decade. It's an aesthetic choice, I think. But anyway, it's back, it's free, it's packed full of plugins and bits and pieces that you can use. It supports VST plugins and everything else that you'd expect a DAW to do. It's good, it's there, it's free, you can use it now. All you need is a BandLab account. They'll take your details at the very least. And off you go. There are some pro features which I think are probably content related that you can buy in order to upgrade the experience, but otherwise it's there. It's a decent DAW on which you can make music. I've now got jets overhead. Glorious. It must be something to do with the NATO thing going on and the 5% that we're now spending on fuel, evidently, in order to keep those things in the air. Bloody noisy beasts. Anyway, moving on. Loci. These things. Just trying to take it apart. There we go. This stuff here. These are marvellous. I use them all the time. These are called Loci modular stands. As in the stand itself is modular. You can take them apart and put them together in order to hold different things. They explore. I mean, this here is also held in one. Can you see that there? Like so. You can build them up and have different things coming off. There's all sorts of bits and pieces. They are brilliant, versatile, strong enough to hold great big slabs of modular and bits and pieces. Great. Use them all the time. Anyway, there's a new version. So Loci tell me that they've come up with a slightly new enhanced version that has some different things. It's got some rigidity put into it through these girders, I think it calls it, these bits that connect things together. It's got some slippier feet, so it can, not slippy, anti-slip feet, so it doesn't slide about quite so much, and new configurations and ways of putting it together. If you're looking for a creative, inventive way of setting up your gear, which doesn't necessarily have to always be the same, then this is a great choice. An absolute fabulous way of doing things. Big, small, desktop stuff, two things, tiered, whatever you like, you can put it together with this stuff. So version 2 is available now. It's looking pretty great. I'm hoping to get some of that in so I can give you a proper run through of exactly all the different bits and pieces in it that make it exciting. This all comes from Stu Holmes, who is an artist who's created all sorts of stuff. You might be familiar with the Bow Beats stuff he's done for that. He's done stuff for Synth Fest, other things. I've got a couple of posters of his on the wall. Great stuff. And he's also started doing these cork desktop slip mats, I suppose you'd call them. Not slip mats for vinyl, but slip mats for your gear, with illustrations on, which are just beautiful. So do go and check all of that out. Could this possibly be the cheapest analog-ish polysynth we've ever seen? Yeah, it's about $299. It's a wooden box with wooden knobs, open source hardware and software that uses 6 analog oscillators through a single low pass filter. There's that paraphonically-ness again, which is interesting. So analog oscillators through a single filter with digital control and digital modulation in a little box you can buy it as a kit and put it together yourself. It sounds pretty great, although the demo is a little bit dodgy, have to say. Could do with just sparking that up a little bit, because there are some sounds in there. I'm certain there are some sounds in there that you're going to find fascinating and really usable. It could probably drone, because you've got individual access to all of those oscillators, so you can pitch them all differently, or you can play them together, you can play them in unison, play them as chords, just set them going, and then filter the heck out of that stuff all going on all at once. And then at the end it has a Bucket Brigade delay. So a nice selection of stuff. It looks like it could be very, very playable, very fun, very easy to get into, because it is all right there on the slightly creaky front panel. But a great affordable way of getting into a complete analog hybrid polyphonic synthesizer. Rhodes Music have come up with a Wurlitzer. Yes, they have. Now, not a physical Wurlitzer, before we get too excited. This is their software division, which did a fantastic job of modelling their new Rhodes piano. Just amazing. It's just a fantastic piece of work. They've taken that expertise and applied it now to an original 200A Wurlitzer reed piano. It sounds exactly as you'd imagine it does. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean, on an original Wurlitzer you probably get control over volume and tremolo. I think that's about it. Vibrato, maybe even one or the other. But in the software it lets you get underneath the hood a bit, and you can mess around with the pedal noise and the tension and the modulation between different things. And then it has, of course, a bank of effects like chorus delay, reverb, overdrive, Leslie movements, that kind of microphone placement. Oh yeah, all of those sorts of things it models and allows you to play with within the software itself. All of it sounds fantastic, and it sounds even better if you stick it through our next one. This is The Walls from Klevgrund. Fabulous. They do amazing plugins. I love the plugins that they do. I think all of them are just extraordinary. They look amazing and they sound amazing. They always have this difference about them, this way of existing in our space, which is just alternative. So this is a take on reverb. I mean, it's just reverb, right? Reverb, but in lots of different ways. There's 6 different algorithms, all of which you can pull and squeeze and push into different forms and different places. You can go completely cosmic, or you can go plated into halls and cathedrals, or wobble around within springs. You've got a lot of width possibilities. You've got your pre-delay, of course, dampening. You've got wet and dry mixes and modulation, and you can have complete control over the width, depth, length and infiniteness of that space. It sounds phenomenal. I mean, those two together, because I was trying them both out, the Wurli into Walls, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. What a nice reverb. And I just love the way that you can visually interact with it. It has this really good image in the middle of showing you what's going on, and it's that you get to play with, rather than having to just adjust parameters that you don't really know are doing what the heck. You can mess with this thing in the middle, and that gives you a better idea as to how you're changing things and how you're interacting with it. Right, so we're back at the end. And now I'm going to share a few thoughts about perhaps a way forward in light of the disappearance of music shops. Now, the answer lies somewhere within something like Syntheast. Now, I put together Syntheast because ultimately I wanted to play in front of more than 5 people at a time. That was one element. But the other element was bringing together manufacturers from all sorts of different brands, put them together in one place so people could go and try these things out. Because where else do you get to do that? Now, PMT did have a synthesizer department, but it was mostly the odd Yamaha montage, couple of pianos. I think there was a Prophet are a Prophet Rev 2 and some launch pads and audio interfaces, that sort of thing. Not a massive amount, certainly no modular. And so the need to have access to bigger and greater synthesizers than your local shop has always been there, and that's why shows are good and that's why they exist, or at least one of the reasons. And so this got me thinking with PMT closing that maybe once a year isn't often enough. But also, you don't need a big show every week or every month. But there may be a way of doing something smaller which could help keep things rolling along. Is there enough interest in doing a small event which showcases a number of synths, it showcases modular, it gives people a place to come and play and learn and interact with these bits and pieces, and then go off and buy their own synthesizer from whatever place they like, online or whatever. Is there room for like a showcase or a showroom which isn't there to grab margin from products, but is actually just there to show people stuff, to inspire them and to give them the opportunity to be totally enchanted by the idea of synthesizers and music technology? Is that enough of a music shop experience, or do we need the whole thing? Do we need the whole shop assistant, demo rigs, hard sell, warehousing, delivery, direct communication? Do we need all of that? I don't know. I think we would like to have it if we could, but if we can't have it, what can replace that? Is there a way of doing this better? And what does the future of MI sales, of synthesizer sales, look like? Is it all going to be direct? Is it all going to be one show a year? So I've been thinking about this sort of thing for a long time, because one of my passions is enabling people to use synthesizers, whether that's understanding synthesizers in my review videos and technical videos of trying to show you how to use stuff, how to get stuff out of stuff, and how awesome stuff is. There's that element. I'm already being that sales guy trying to sell you a thing. Yeah, I'm already doing that. That's a passion that I have. But I also want it to be affordable. I would love people to be able to just come in and try stuff, or potentially borrow stuff to use it at home, to get the hang of things before they make their purchasing decisions. So there's that. I also have a shed full of stuff that I don't really use because I'm a reviewer, and I get some things, I try it, I'll review it, and then I put it to one side and move on to the next thing. Some things stick around, but a lot of stuff doesn't, and it pains me to see these things not being used. And wouldn't it be great if they were? And how can I do that? How can I best facilitate the use of all this stuff within the synth community and within new people and people who are interested and synthesizer curious? So these are the sort of questions that have been rummaging around in my head, and I've been looking into the idea of providing some kind of rental service or membership service, some way of making it easy for people to access synthesizers. And the bankruptcy of PMT really brought this into a sharp focus, because it now means that people in East Anglia have nowhere to go to try a synthesizer, and that's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous. So this brings together a whole bunch of conflicting ideas over sales, marketing, over margin, over stock, over selling, not selling, bias, sponsorship, music, community. All of these things are flying around into the same space, and I'm trying to cue all these things down into some kind of sensibly sized day. And that's what I'm looking at the moment. So, in a nutshell, what I'm proposing or trying to get to is that once a month on a Saturday, I will find some space in Norwich, I will open it up, I will throw in a load of synthesizers and modular and be there while people try stuff out, have a look, poke around. It's a mini Syntheast. It's a pop-up Syntheast, I'm probably going to call it. I will try to do it once a month. Potentially manufacturers could come down to showcase something, like Source could come and bring Arturia and Buchla and Dreadbox and so on and so forth. Focusrite could come and bring Sequential and Oberheim. Potentially, because currently in East Anglia there's no one showing their stuff. No shops are showing their stuff. So it's got to be worthwhile, right? And is this all done out of the goodness of my heart because I just have so much time on my hands? That's also a question. No, not really. It has to somehow operate as a small business to some degree. I'm certainly not looking to buy stock and to sell stuff and to somehow make money that way. Certainly not. I will, however, be offering, hey, there's a synthesizer. Here's a link and a QR code. Go there to buy it and I will get, an affiliate link kind of kickback from that. That's a possibility, yes. The other thing I've been talking about a lot is renting modular systems and renting other synthesizers, and it's always hit upon the same problems. Problem mostly being it being completely trashed by couriers or being completely stolen by the person who's borrowed it. Those are the two difficulties. Now, if I'm in Norwich once a month, that makes the possibility of a drop-off, pick-up, collection day, time, space an absolute reality. So rather than having to put something like this in the post, people can come and take it physically from me, and that creates also more security because there's a relationship involved, there's a meeting, there's photographs, there's forms to fill in, there's ID to register, and that could potentially work far more than doing it long distance in the post. And that could be another way of supporting Molten Music Technology, supporting the channel, supporting the work that I do, supporting the event, and so on. The other thing is that it's an open invitation for local synthesizer people to come along, to bring a little synth, to plug in and have a bit of a play, to share what they've got. Could also be educational. We could do seminars, could do performances, it could balloon into an entire thing, all of its own. So that in my I'm the man who's going to save the synth industry hat on, that's what I'm thinking might be a good idea. So I'm actively looking into this right now. I've got a couple of places in Norwich that could really be strong contenders if I can afford it, if it can make enough money in doing it so that it becomes, worthwhile and not just a drag, then it could be good. So this would be an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, I do appreciate that I have all sorts of madcap ideas, and this is just the latest in the madcap ideas, but, Syntheast did happen. I did do that. I dreamt it up and it happened. I know plenty of other things haven't, but that one did, and it was beautiful, and it continues to be so. This, similarly, could be beautiful. It is possible for me to have an idea and for it to actually materialise. It is possible. So yeah, this Sunday in our live stream, 8 o'clock, whatever Sunday is it? Is it the 30th? No, 29th of June. We'll have a live stream. We'll talk about it. We'll fiddle with other things. This is the first little case that I've put together that people could potentially rent. I have a couple of others to put together that people could borrow. We could talk about all of that, whether that's worthwhile or not, whether everything should just be free and I should give it all away, or whether as a business it's a worthwhile thing to do, and whether people would be prepared to support that kind of thing. Is it a goer? Is it interesting? Or is it just yet another little synth meet? Because I don't want it to be just a little synth meet. Those are awesome. They're brilliant. I love them. We've got a synth club in Norwich. We've got an EMOM. I don't want to be either of those things. I want it to be a place where people can come, not because they are mad about synths, but because they're curious and they'd like to have a go. They might not have the money. They just want to have a play and see what they think. They might have the money later to come and buy something. That's the sort of area, place where people can find out about this stuff and get advice on perhaps what it is they could buy. Maybe. So there we go, that's enough. I think that's enough of me prattling on. Prattle, good lord, can I prattle. So yeah, come along on Sunday for some more prattling. That'll be fine, that'll be lovely. Come and grab a beer, we'll relax and chat for a couple of hours. Hopefully I'll try to make some music on a couple of things. That'll be fun. Got lots and lots of reviews coming along. Got reviews on this and this and this, all sorts of things. The Redshift 6 I got over there, the Seashell I've got over there. Some great bits and pieces. I've got the Donner S1 coming in very soon, tomorrow I think, in fact. Yeah, so that'll be fun. All sorts of things to look at, a whole shed load of DIY. I'll see what it is that I can conjure up this month, because there's all sorts of holidays and things getting in the way, but you never know what I can achieve. Who knows? Who knows? So there you go. Please, if you like what I do, then do subscribe. Do like, subscribe, and you'll get more of these videos. Do come over to Patreon, where we have a merry band of people there who support me with a little bit of money every month, and that's brilliant. It's totally awesome that they do that, because it's a vital part of my revenue that enables me to keep on making videos. I'm also planning to release a percussion module based on, where is it? The AR110, another sampled instrument, will be coming soon, which is exclusive to our patrons. They get that free if you're a patron, or you'll be able to buy it as well separately if you wish. But I'm going to sample the heck out of this and do interesting things with it and create a virtual instrument. There's already 2 virtual instruments up there, more to come whenever I get the opportunity to do one. So that's fun. So if you'd like to support me, do please consider going to do that. Otherwise, next month is our 10th anniversary of doing these Molten monthlies. That staggers me that I've been doing it for 10 years. Just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, it'll be a special one next month. Somehow, I imagine. If I'm here, I might be on holiday. Who knows? Again, just don't know what's happening these days. Anyway, hope that was useful. And in the meantime, go and make some tunes.